Thank you.
A little bit on a lighter note. We're all working with energy, right? What is the energy in the room right now? Heavy.
Waiting for you.
Waiting for me.
Waiting to hear you.
Waiting to hear me. What are some other perspectives when you feel the energy right now in the room? Light? Puffy, airy? Confused?
I learned what is the difference between professional speaker and people who want to be a professional speaker.
Nice framing. We're sitting here for quite a few days. And sitting brings the energy down. And we could do like a really relaxing meditation right now. And usually when in the morning, when I do a meditation, I continue where I left off just before I wake up. That's not one of my talents. I think this wasn't, yeah, this one. So let's crank up the energy a little bit. Is that a good thing?
Yes.
Okay, I think we can close the middle because I didn't hear anything from the back. Is that a good thing?
Yes.
Okay, please stand up. Please stand up. And part of increasing the energy is a little bit of motion, right? So let's start with very tiny motions with the fingers. Just very tiny motions with the fingers. Very tiny. And slowly increase the motions. And because I'm holding a mic, I'm only doing it with one hand, right? Just include it with the hand. Let's make sure the hand is moving. The lower arms, the upper arms, maybe the shoulders, maybe the hips, a little bit of the legs. And continue with the moving. Continue with the moving. And make the movements larger. Even in the back. And make the motions larger. And if you don't like to dance, just move. Including the legs, including the legs. How's the energy now? Better? Okay, let's sit down. So for some of you, how many of you don't know me? 2 people and a very weird person in the back. A very short introduction. If you want to hear more, just come to me at the break or something. My name is Rob van Over Bruggen. I'm from the Netherlands. Hence my funky accent. I wrote a couple of books. The first book I wrote is on cancer, and specifically how emotions and beliefs change the process of cancer. If you look at medicine, mental health, we know that the mind influences the body. Also, if you look at different aspects. And there's specific reasons for that. What I did in my search, I was looking for why people are suddenly recovering from cancer when there's no intervention that could explain what happened. And I was starting looking at their psychological processes. That was my entry point. What did they emotionally? What did they psychologically? What did they do in their belief systems? And I came across quite a few things. I wrote that up in my, my book, Healing Psyche. Usually I bring a couple of copies wherever I speak, and usually in the first day they're sold out, and that's what happened here too. I could create some extra copies. If you want an extra copy, just let me know. There are a few things that is really important, what I know. How many of you ever feel like, if you notice a symptom, a little bit depressed? If you notice a certain symptom, how many of you feel a little bit depressed? Look around. Just look around. Any feel of any physical issue? Or feel hopeless? This is what happens a lot of time in small symptoms and large symptoms. And just by being able to work with the emotion, work with the belief system of changing that, changing the hopelessness, the helplessness in empowerment, what does that do? What does it do? By the way, this is a question. More energetic, you look more forward to things. Feel light. Feel secure. When you feel empowered, when you feel I can do something, you get more in control. They did an amazing study in the Netherlands about 15 years ago. They did a lot of studies in the Netherlands, by the way, on emotions and cancer till 15 years ago. Then they stopped and doing different research. But they did an amazing study related to pain. They noticed that if there were people in a hospital that were getting morphine, and when they were giving them morphine to reduce the pain, but they also gave them the ability to self-control the amount of morphine they got. So they got a little dial probably, and the patient themselves could determine how much morphine they will get. At first they would be really scared, like, oh my God, will the patients overdose? Didn't happen. An interesting thing happened. Patients used less morphine, they felt better, had less pain, and were out of the hospital faster. The only difference was the patient felt in control. And especially in pain, when you experience pain on some way, and you feel like I am in control, you can manage the pain better. And that's just with the level of I am in control. So what I noticed with people that spontaneously recovered from cancer is probably all took, thank you. They probably all took some way of action that they felt more in control. And it can be a large thing, but it can also be very small things. Like, doctor, can you please come back half an hour later? Right now I have visitors. Or can you please use this word instead of that word? Or I'd like to bring my own pillow instead of the hospital pillow, or whatever. Even just very small things. All the way up to very large things that you cooperate with the physician for a best treatment plan. Just by being in control. Another thing that I noticed is every person that spontaneously recovered from cancer worked on their emotions. one way or another. Not to increase anger, not to increase sadness, no, to decrease all the negative emotions. And doesn't really matter which modality you use for that. If it's EFT, if it's speed, if it's NLP, if it's hypnotherapy, doesn't really matter, as long as the emotions go down. And we talked a little bit about it in one of the panel discussions. The emotions around dying is one of the biggest fears. And there's a lot of work done by seeing what happens when you reduce the emotions of fear to the ability to heal. And the third thing what happened, or what most people did, is they took up a project. They took up an action, a vision, a mission, what they want to accomplish or do or stand for in the world. Like I can remember I think he was 84, a man, and he was, yeah, pretty serious. And he decided, I'm going to plant an apple tree. Because in 20 years from now, I will have my own apples. Isn't that amazing? A grandmother of 78 decided, I'm going to take up computer classes. Because then I'll be able to communicate with my grandchildren. That's a project, that's a reason to live. I mainly started looking for why people spontaneously recovered, but you can reverse it. What is happening on an emotional level often when people contract cancer, and you see a very high correlation between people who lost their life's mission just before they were diagnosed. And this is mainstream research, right? This is not alternative. Not alternative at all. I often speak to skeptical medical doctors, give them a copy of my book, read it, and they always come back like, I don't know, but it surely sparks a thought. They never say it doesn't work or it's not true. Because this is mainstream psychological and medical research. So 3 things. Self-responsibility. I am in charge of my own life. I decide what I do. And I don't know statistics, but I do know a lot of doctors really appreciate that. If a client decides for their own life. How many of you are medical doctors and see patients? Okay. How many of you, of the medical doctors, really like if a patient is actively involved in their own healing process? Look around. Just look around. Almost everyone. Because that makes working as a medical doctor way more pleasantful, and as a patient you get better care, you'll be more in control, and your health will improve faster. The question, very good question, how about people pursuing medicine and becoming medical doctors? That's a totally different aspect. Because they're trained in a certain way of reacting, and depending on the school of medicine you attend, the training is different. So the first thing is self-responsibility. The second thing is work on emotions. Things that are bottled up, things that are stuck down inside, start getting them out. And the third thing is make sure you have a life mission. Create a bucket list or a vision or mission, or what do you want to do? What is your personal legacy in this lifetime? You had a question?
I'd like to share something. What you said about pain and control and using morphine, I think that is extremely, extremely important in terms of an experience which I had.
Mm-hmm.
Where I began to become aware of the emotional attachment to pain. Okay? And I began to see, especially when all the doctors who were attending would keep telling me how low my pain threshold is, which is what doctors love saying to their patients.
Okay. I'm going to cut you a little bit short, but please go up to Jimmy. He has an amazing story to share.
I just like to
Yeah?
1 second. By becoming aware as to how emotions amplify pain, you can control pain.
Correct. What he said is, as a summary, your emotions affect the physical pain. And when you can reduce the emotions, the pain will reduce. Something else you see often, and I will talk a little bit more about this in the 2-day, in the post-conference, Tuesday and Wednesday, is this positive psychology hoax. You need to be positive. Bullshit. But please wait until I'm finished before you make a judgment of that. They did some research where people who were thinking positively had a higher level of vitality, were easier recovering. They did also a lot of research where that was disproven. However, if you look at the research, what they measure is what people are expressing. What are they saying? What boxes do they tick? But that comes from the inside out. Right? Not from the outside in. How it has been translated is you need to be positive, otherwise you get sick or you die or you have troubles, which is a load of crap. If you don't believe it, and you cannot voice out what your real emotions are, everything starts bottling up. I often compare it to an apple. An apple that is rotting inside, and you really dislike it, it doesn't matter if you paint it nice and green. If you put a nice green paint on it, the apple is not better. Actually, the apple is cut out of oxygen, whereby the rotting process goes on inside and goes on much faster. So instead of the positive thinking bullshit, make sure you work with the client to a positive feeling, so that the positive thinking comes from the inside out. Take a look at the... Okay, cool. Sometimes I cannot understand my own notes, but... So, in the post-conference workshop, and Yasmina just friendly reminded me, make sure that you sign up today for the post-conference workshops. Look in your flyer, your schedule, to tick the box and to make sure that you sign up and pay so we can arrange for the post-conference workshops. For me personally, if tomorrow not 10 or less people have registered, I'll probably cancel the workshop. So then you miss an opportunity. Yes? No, but you still can sign up for his workshops. Make sure that Anu knows and everything is arranged. So what we will be, is it okay that I share a little bit about what we will be doing in the workshop? Because it really ties into what we'll be discussing now. I've been giving a very short overview of what you notice in every person that spontaneously recovered from cancer. First one is take responsibility. Second one is work on your emotions. And third one is life mission. All those three things we will cover in the workshop extensively. I will be talking but we mainly will be doing exercises. It's not going to be a lecture for 2 days. It's going to be actively working. What is the emotions that bother you? Is it still bottled up and closed off? Let's get it out and let's get it rid of. What is your life mission? What do you want to accomplish in your life? And how do you personally take responsibility, and what can you do? And we'll go over that in different forms, in different funky exercises. Some people who know me, you know how funky exercises can be. How many of you already did a 1 or 2 day training with me? Was it valuable? Was it useful? Okay. If you don't trust me, ask those people. So. Something else that I also touched on a very tiny bit in one of the panel discussions is medical doctors are not fortune tellers. Otherwise they would wear a different robe, a different hat, different ring, work in a different atmosphere. Was a joke. It bombed. Ooh! They look at a split second of the body, at a very split second when you go into the hospital, and based on that, they start looking for patterns. They start looking for what might be happening in the future. But every person knows a body is not static. It changes every single time. A very easy way of feeling and noticing how this works is think of a car. Just think of a car. And there's no traffic. There's no traffic. You're on an airplane strip. You hired the airplane strip just with your car. That little traffic is there. And you start driving. At first you start slowly, right? You have a certain acceleration. Every second you go like 10 kilometers faster. So after 2 seconds, you drive 20 kilometers an hour. Right? This is yes. This is no. This is I'm asleep. After 3 seconds, you drive 30 kilometers an hour. After 4 seconds, you drive 40 kilometers an hour. After 5 seconds, you drive 50 miles an hour. Ah, tough crowd. Even though we warmed up, we need to participate a little bit more. Otherwise, I'm going to sit down. After 6 seconds, we drive 60. After 7 seconds, we drive 70. After 8 seconds, 80.
Stop.
Why? Why not? Why not? It's not allowed to? It's dangerous? No, there was no traffic. There was an air place. 200, 400, 600. It doesn't happen, right? But if I look at the car at, say, 4 seconds, I can make a complete picture of how the car functions at that moment in time. How every part of the car is functioning. I know, okay, this car currently drives 40 miles an hour. And when I look at all the parts and do all the diagnostics, I know it's driving, every second it's driving 10 kilometers per hour faster. Then I can predict the future, what happens after an hour. Right? No. Because it levels off at a certain point in time. However, in medicine, you can predict the future, which is weird. For the medical people in the room, am I right? Is this what happens? Possibility. Not true, but this is what could happen. And this is often communicated to a client or a patient. And if it's not communicated, it's often what the patient perceives and takes on. And the other way of framing it, yes, the body is a dynamic process. Everything changes. If everything stays the same, this will probably be where the future goes. But you have your own influence. You can control your life, and you can start changing small things of larger things. And I like to look at medical procedures. I like to look at how things work and what is the reasoning behind it, because that makes it easier for people to understand. I had a client with diabetes and a history of cancer, and her blood values were, I don't know which blood values anymore, but it was 2.3. And 2.0 was a healthy average. So her doctor said, you're above a healthy average, which is correct. She heard, I'm way above healthy. My values are way above, and higher is bad in this case. I'm way above healthy, so I'm very sick. In this case, I only asked a question, or I explained what an average is. So if the average if a healthy bandwidth is between 2 and 3, the average is 2.5. It's a little bit of math, but instead of having just one value, now you have a bandwidth. I said, ask your medical doctor, ask your physician, are you still in a healthy bandwidth? Because she was full in stress. So she went back, she asked the question, and the physician says, yeah, we need to monitor it. We need to monitor it, but you're in a healthy bandwidth. Her stress dropped almost to 0. Was this valuable? Is this something you can work with any client that you work with? How do you apply it? Use of language? Mm-hmm. You cannot use the same language with everyone. You need to be careful with your language, test it, and how does this work? Great that you say that, because that's why I ask a lot of questions with the audience. Because I know what I'm saying, I don't know how it's landing. And if I need to repeat something or need to change something, so that's why I need audience participation and say this is yes, this is no, this is I don't have a clue. What are some other applications that you can use this for? What are some other applications you can use this for? You can mirror the client to see how he responds, definitely. And the 3 pillars that I just mentioned. How can you use that with your clients? His participation is very important. It's not a one-way process. He needs to take charge. What else?
Find meaning in his life. Find meaning in his life.
Find meaning in his life. Very correct. These are very simple things to do, right? Very simple things to do. You can do them yourself. You can refer them out to a person working psychological or on a meaning of life or whatever.
through.
Yes.
Okay. When I say auto-suggest is when you want the patient to believe that they are taking direction and they're taking responsibility for their path, but you kind of suggest and make them believe it's their way. So that you kind of give them direction, but you make them believe it's their own. So it's like an auto-suggestion.
That's a very good...
It's like a background guide.
Yeah, it's very good. And the word auto-suggestion confused me a little bit because that's also programming my mind. But if you work with your language and the client perceives like, hey, that was a good idea for me, let's work on an emotional level. That's very powerful.
One thing is very important. Whenever you meet a patient or a client, your own body language should be very pleasant. And when you say, oh, wow, you are improving. Yes, I'm happy to see you. Then happiness should be in your body. Otherwise, mostly doctors carry their own graveyard face to the patient. And that's what they perceive more than what you are talking.
Correct. That's also the same client I just shared with you who had the blood values. The other thing that she was really scared of is seeing her doctor. Because her doctor always looked very worried. And what I told her is that might be true. He might have some troubles with his wife, he might have a sore knee, he might have troubles with his dog. And then he sees your file, and then you look at him, and he thinks of his wife, and he looks worried. There's no guarantee that it has any relationship to your file or to your case. But people think it almost instantly. Okay. If you want to be at the 2-day workshop, where we go in much deeper in this material and make sure that you will be there, it's the first time I do this workshop. I designed it.
Grab the opportunity, register for the workshop. Our registration desk is right outside the door. Now we break for tea break for 15 minutes.